Did you know lowering cholesterol does nothing to prevent heart attacks? In fact, latest studies prove lowering cholesterol can trigger even more heart attacks. My name is Andrew, and in this short and controversial health presentation, you'll discover why virtually everything you think you know about heart disease and cholesterol levels are dead wrong. I'll show you the real reason why most of us will inevitably suffer from a heart attack if we follow mainstream medical advice. This is such a massive medical scam, and if exposed, could demolish the entire $13.2 billion heart disease industry. And most importantly, if you watch this video till the end, you'll discover how you can virtually never have a heart attack in your life again. It's a revolutionary heart rebuilding method. Something that has already been shown in hundreds of scientific studies and used by more than 37,000 people who were either diagnosed with heart disease, told they were at risk of heart disease, or who had already suffered from a life-threatening heart attack. Proven to rapidly and permanently flush the bad cholesterol from your body, prying it from the walls of your arteries, pushing it back out of your blood vessels, melting away deadly plaque. Totally reverse the effects of heart disease in those who already have it by healing the damaged arteries, vessels, and even the heart tissue itself. And by using your body's natural ability to heal itself. In some cases, it's even possible to restore your heart health to the levels of a 25-year-old. And it's so simple that you can start using this information immediately. You don't have to purchase anything because everything you need is already in your home. Now, if what I'm saying seems almost impossible to believe, that's okay. Skepticism is the first step to breaking free from your ever-growing list of doctor-prescribed heart pills and the constantly expanding blacklist of foods that you're told you simply aren't allowed to eat and that fill you with regret, anxiety, and fear of death every time you do touch them. That's why for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to present all of the facts, the scientific research, and the overwhelming proof that you can restore your heart and body to perfect health while guaranteeing you never have a heart attack or get heart disease as long as you live. Timothy Smithwick of Boston, Massachusetts was skeptical too until he watched this presentation. He writes, "If I'm being 100% honest, when I first watched your presentation, I thought you were crazy. But once I watched your video and saw your explanation about what really causes high cholesterol and heart disease, suddenly everything you were saying made a lot of sense. I think it's absolutely vital that we get this information to as many Americans as possible. Let me know what I can do to help." In fact, so are a lot of the 37,338 other Americans just like you who took the concrete heart-restoring steps they discovered inside this video and used them to flush the bad cholesterol along with their plaque and blood clots directly out of their bodies in as little as 17 days, while leaving their doctors and cardiologists scratching their heads in baffled disbelief. People like Archie Wynn of Cleveland, Ohio, who writes, "As someone who has been diagnosed with heart disease for 5 years, I was incredibly excited to use the methods and strategies you shared in your website. That's not to say I was convinced they'd solve everything, but I figured there was no harm in trying. Well, boy, am I glad I did. You should have seen the look on my doctor's face when he got the most recent test results and saw that I was medically considered to be heart disease-free. He said this was almost impossible, and he begged to know what my secret was. Thank you, Andrew." And Al Hubble of San Diego, California, who says, "I'm just shocked by the results here. I suffered from a massive heart attack 3.5 weeks ago. One of my family members immediately told me about your presentation and about your counterintuitive advice. I tried it out, and just 18 days later, when I was back in the hospital to have more tests done, the doctors were all in disbelief. They said it looked like I'd never had a heart attack at all. Can you imagine? The entire cardiac wing was in chaos, and these PhDs argued and squabbled and debated what the heck had happened. But it was no mystery to me. It's all thanks to you." Now, I'll show you the exact heart-restoring method these people are referring to in just a second, but before I do, let me introduce myself. So as I just mentioned, my name is Andrew. I'm 57 years old, and I live in a small little town about 50 miles outside of Indianapolis, Indiana. For the last 7 years, I've been obsessed with helping as many Americans as I possibly can to heal their bodies and repair the damage that's been done to their hearts over the years. And to date, more than 37,000 people have used the information I'm about to give you in this presentation to transform their lives and sleep easy at night, knowing they'll never need to worry about heart disease or having a heart attack again, or stare at the innocent and joy-filled smiles of their grandchildren and feel sick with fear as they wonder if they'll live long enough to see them grow into the beautiful people they're going to become. You see, for me, my obsession with heart health is personal, and I'll tell you why. It all began in 2011, while I was out on a date with Barbara, a woman I knew from church. It was completely unexpected. We'd just finished dinner, and I was walking to her car when I began to feel a little short of breath. I didn't think too much about it at first. I thought maybe I was having allergies, or there was something in the air, or maybe it was just because I'd eaten too much. Or heck, maybe it was because I was trying to work up the nerve to kiss her. Well, to make a long story short, we got to Barbara's car. She smiled at me, and I smiled back. My heart was racing, and I thought it was from excitement. This was the first time I'd been romantically interested in another woman since my wife had passed away from ovarian cancer 14 years ago. And I was nervous because I knew Barbara really did like me, and I was realizing now that we were on our third date, I really liked her too. Well, my heart began to race even faster as I leaned forward to kiss Barbara, and I saw her leaning forward to kiss me back. And our lips were maybe 4 inches apart when suddenly I fell down onto my knees in front of her, gasping for air, feeling an actual pain in my heart that I can hardly describe even today, my throat constricting and the blood rushing to my head. I could still remember Barbara's look of terror, the way she screamed for help, the voices of the young couple that happened to be walking by at that exact moment as they called 911 and told the emergency operator to send an ambulance ASAP. That it was urgent, that the old man they were standing next to looked like he was having a heart attack. I remember thinking, no, this is all wrong. I'm not an old man, and I'm not having a heart attack. I'm only in my late 40s. I'm a pretty healthy guy. I eat a salad almost every night for dinner. I watch my cholesterol. I run 30 minutes per day almost every morning before work. No, this had to be some mistake, I thought, even as pain began shooting through my left arm, and my chest tightened so much that it felt like a 2-ton elephant was sitting on it. As you'd expect, the ambulance came to the shopping center parking lot and rushed me to the hospital, where they pumped me full of clot-busting medicines and beta blockers. Within an hour, my children, my sisters, even some of my golfing buddies were all crowded around the hospital bed. And by the end of the day, the room was already filled with flowers and get-well cards. It was the most surreal moment of my life. I just kept thinking they'd gotten it wrong, that they were all in on a joke. This wasn't happening to me. How could it be? Well, anyways, once the immediate threat of me dying was over, the emergency room doctor came in to talk with me and answer my questions. He said that fortunately I'd only had a mild heart attack, but that this term was really misleading. Even when you have a mild heart attack, there is still mild damage to your heart, making it highly likely that you'll have another mild heart attack soon, and then another, and then another. And that quite possibly, even within a few months, I would have a massive heart attack that could put me in the grave. What can I do to make sure this doesn't ever happen again? I asked the doc. I exercise regularly. I already try to follow a low-cholesterol diet because I know that's important. I avoid a lot of fatty foods like cheeseburgers and bacon. So what am I doing wrong? Well, the young doctor was nice enough, but he really didn't have a good answer for me. He said that my cholesterol levels were still about 320 milligrams per deciliter of blood, while the average healthy person has a level of about 200 milligrams per deciliter. He scolded me for not getting a doctor checkup in the past 2 years. He prescribed a whole shopping list worth of medications, including beta blockers, ACE inhibitors, anticoagulants, and anti-clotting medicines. And then he told me to be extremely careful that I didn't eat any foods that would raise my cholesterol. Man, that was frustrating, though, because I thought I'd already been doing all these things, minus the medications. And I simply didn't know how to lower my cholesterol besides continuing what I was already doing, or starving to death. I'd been put on so many medications, they were going to cost me $150 per month in my insurance copay. And when I looked into the side effects of my prescription medications and saw things like erectile dysfunction, skin rashes, hair loss, liver and kidney damage, depression, even type 2 diabetes, I felt certain that my life was over. Now, the doctor had said that one of the most important things I needed to do was lower my cholesterol. Sounds simple enough, but as I got on the internet and began researching the best ways to reduce cholesterol, things got really overwhelming really quickly. I kept reading about good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, but telling the two apart was not as simple as it sounded. What I found was really confusing. Some people say that egg yolks were filled with unhealthy cholesterol, and I should avoid them at all costs. Some experts said it was vital that I have at least 2 whole eggs per day if I wanted to keep my cholesterol in check. Some people said that eating whole grain cereals could help fight off heart disease, while others said that they would raise my blood sugar levels, lead to diabetes, and ultimately back to heart disease. I heard eating animal liver was great for me, and the conflicting information that it was the best way to poison myself, that red meat was a killer, and that it was full of life-supporting iron and other essential minerals I couldn't get from my veggies. No one seemed to know what the hell they were talking about. And meanwhile, I kept getting blood panels and kept finding that my cholesterol hadn't gone down, and kept being told by my doctor that I was at risk for another major heart attack, and that maybe we should increase the dosages on your medications. It was driving me crazy not knowing what to do, and I really thought about giving up on the whole thing, of just saying, screw it, and eating whatever the heck I wanted for my final few months, basically accepting that I'd had a good run, but that it would soon be my time to go. I probably would have done just that, in fact, if I hadn't come across an obscure medical article that seemed innocent enough, but that would end up saving my life. It was a Tuesday night in early October, and like usual, I'd spent the last several hours scouring the internet for any information I could find on lowering my cholesterol. By complete chance, I clicked on a link that someone had referenced in an online health forum, and it took me to an article that was published by a team of researchers at one of the nation's most famous universities. At first, it seemed like just another scientific paper in another obscure, hoity-toity academic journal. I'd seen a lot of those already. Reported findings from a bunch of tenured professors who'd spent millions of dollars and several months in the lab to discover that whatever random food they were studying had too much cholesterol, not enough cholesterol, or were both good and bad for me, even though you'd think that wouldn't make sense. But as I read the first paragraph, it quickly became apparent that this article was different. The authors weren't talking about cholesterol in foods at all. They were talking about the cholesterol that the body produces completely independently. You see, what their paper had concluded is that about 75% of all your cholesterol is actually made by your body, especially in your liver, while only 25% of it comes from food. The authors said that even if you were to have a completely cholesterol-free diet, your body would still produce about 1,000 milligrams of cholesterol per day, and that even vegetarians who don't eat meat generally find that their bodies produce between 800 and 1,600 milligrams of cholesterol per day. More shockingly, the article also mentioned that a lot of the cholesterol your body already makes is that so-called bad cholesterol, also known as LDL. Well, as you can imagine, this was pretty startling information, and of course, I immediately started looking around the internet to see if there was any more evidence of this. And as I did, I was amazed to discover hundreds of articles and studies saying the same thing. In other words, it was actually pretty common knowledge in the scientific community that more than 3/4 of all cholesterol is made inside your body, independently of the food you're eating. But this led to a couple of extremely perplexing questions. If 75% of our cholesterol is made inside our body, particularly in our livers, then why is it that almost all of the medical and nutritional advice about your heart health is obsessively focused on either which foods to eat or not eat, or doing excessive and exhausting cardio? And if this LDL cholesterol is so bad for you, then why the heck does your body produce tons of it on its own, each day? I couldn't put my finger on it, but I felt like knowing the answers to these two questions could help me with my own struggle against heart disease and heart attacks. And so I wrote down the name of the lead scientist from the study I'd first read and called the university's biology department. The secretary forwarded my call right to his office, but it just rang and went to voicemail. So I left a message telling him who I was and that I'd read his study and that I had some questions. For the next 7 days, I waited by my phone, but my call was never returned. So I called the university again and left a message again and didn't get a call back again. This whole process actually went on for at least a month, and all the while I felt like there was a countdown timer in my chest and that it was about to explode. On November 9th, 2011, I decided to call and leave one last voicemail with the scientist before giving up. As usual, my call got forwarded to his office with no problems. But this time, I almost fell out of my chair when after the third ring, a man picked up. "This is Dr. Westphal. How can I help you?" Well, I was so afraid of missing this chance to speak with this PhD that all of the words just exploded out of my mouth. I told him who I was, the story of my heart attack, how I was at major risk for another heart attack, how I'd tried everything to get my cholesterol down without success, and how, after reading his published article, it seemed crazy to me that the nutrition and medical industries weren't talking about cholesterol that's being produced inside our body naturally. Plus, I asked, if cholesterol is so bad for us, why does our body make so much of it? "What's going on here?" I asked Dr. Westphal. "Am I missing something?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and for a moment I was terrified that the call had dropped. But then I heard the doctor let out a long sigh. "You're not missing anything," the man said. "Come visit me at the university later this week. If you're able, I'll explain everything to you." You better bet I jumped at that opportunity, and 3 days later, as I made the 4-hour trek up the eastern seaboard to the small Connecticut college town where the university was located, I felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in months. And as I walked across the campus, passing old stone buildings and perfectly manicured landscapes, and into the biology sciences building, my heart began to race so fast that I actually got nervous I'd have another heart attack before I'd even made it to the professor. The secretary walked me down the hall and into Dr. Westphal's office, and the first thing I noticed was that the walls of his office were covered with diplomas, certificates, and awards. There must have been at least 20 of them, and I couldn't help but wonder who this man was that I'd come to see. Well, after pleasantries, Dr. Westphal looked at me with a serious look and said, "The reason I invited you up here today is that you're asking me some very good questions, ones that most people ignore. And because it's obvious you've been doing your research and that you're really trying to take your health into your own hands, I want to give you the answers you deserve." With that, the scientist launched into an explanation of how cholesterol in the body really works, why all of the dietary advice you've ever heard about managing cholesterol levels is completely misguided, and why taking the cholesterol medications your doctor prescribes to you is the metaphorical equivalent to eating a handful of poison each day. Ultimately, this was the information that would save my life, flushing out all of the plaque from my arteries, destroying my blood clots, and totally eliminating my risk of another heart attack or heart disease. Pay close attention here because these basic scientific principles will allow you to do the exact same thing I did. No matter whether you already have heart disease, are at risk of a heart attack, or simply want to make sure you never suffer from a damaged, broken-down body, the first thing you need to understand, Dr. Westphal said, is that cholesterol in itself is not the least bit bad for you. On the contrary, it's actually extremely vital to your health. Cholesterol enables you to produce other essential hormones, things that are necessary for all kinds of biological processes in your body to take place. So your body needs this cholesterol to function properly, which is why 75% of it is produced internally, most of it from the liver. That should answer your first question. Why is your body producing all this cholesterol if it's bad for you? It's not bad for you. It's crucial to life. He explained to me that our liver works as an operations center, where it makes this cholesterol and then sends it out through your body. Primarily, the type of cholesterol that circulates through your body is LDL, which is known as bad cholesterol, except it's not really bad for you at all. Your cells need this cholesterol. What does turn LDL into a killer, however, is when your liver begins to produce too much of it, and for reasons I'll explain later, can't break them down into bile and excrete them via the small intestines. When that happens, this excess LDL builds up in your liver, shoots through your bloodstream, clogs up your vessels and arteries, causes plaque, and ultimately leads to heart disease, heart attacks, and even sudden death. He then continued to answer my second question. Why are we focusing so much on food? He explained that one of the big reasons is that cholesterol in food is easier for the average person to understand. So the nutrition and food industries choose to use that as the culprit, even though it's clearly not the problem. Also, for the record, there are medications that limit your body's natural cholesterol production. The problem with that, however, is that all of these medications come with major side effects like intestinal problems, liver damage, muscle inflammation, memory loss, and even type 2 diabetes. So it should be clear why traditional medications are not really a solution at all. They're actually damaging your liver, the very organ you should be healing. Plus, they're causing type 2 diabetes, which of course puts you at major risk for heart disease and heart attacks. Of course, to a scientist and researcher, this is all extremely frustrating. He sees people being told to make constant changes to their diets, even though food is a fraction of the problem. He sees people being told to do cardio 5 times a week, even though that doesn't do anything to address the cholesterol buildup in your liver. And he sees doctors across America being paid billions of dollars by pharmaceutical conglomerates to prescribe medications that are actually killing their patients. It's infuriating and disgusting. All of these people, just like you, are being run on a never-ending hamster wheel while the supplement and diet companies, the food companies, the exercise companies, and the pharma companies dangle a fat carrot in front of you that you can never reach, because it's not even real. Now here comes the worst part, something that will make you furious, because if you'd known about it already, I guarantee you wouldn't ever have a heart attack, and that you would actually have an extremely healthy heart, low blood pressure, and an ideal heart rate. The scientific and medical communities already know how to completely and permanently solve the problem of high cholesterol. Even more crazy is that they already know how to permanently reverse heart damage and flush the stored cholesterol from your bloodstream. He told me that the medical community has known about it for more than 20 years now, and yet Big Pharma has been holding them hostage, threatening to cut funding and sue the living daylights out of them and their universities if anyone tries to share it. As I heard Dr. Westphal say this last part, my heart began racing so fast that for the second time that day I was afraid it might explode. There was already a way to completely eliminate the risk of heart disease and to reverse the damage my heart attack had already done? BS. I would have known about this already, wouldn't I? I just couldn't believe it, and so I begged and pleaded for Dr. Westphal to tell me more. He was reluctant at first. He seemed to truly believe that if what he knew got out to the public, it could both threaten his career and lead to a massive lawsuit. But as I broke down in tears, humiliated, and whispered, "Please, I don't want to die," in a sad, pathetic voice, he finally took a deep breath and said he'd tell me. "Look," he began, "there's all of this excess cholesterol in your liver, right? That's part of the problem. But what's really causing it to build up in your arteries, to damage the cells in your heart, to kill you, is that your liver can't get rid of that excess cholesterol. That's the thing." Dr. Westphal said this is a relatively simple fix. Basically, there are just a small handful of enzymes in your liver that are responsible for breaking down excess cholesterol, and it's easy for them to get overwhelmed. And when they do get overwhelmed and you have too much cholesterol in your liver, Dr. Westphal says that you'll also find yourself suffering from hormonal imbalance.
It's easy to test if you have a hormonal imbalance, by the way. One major sign is if you don't sleep soundly or wake up multiple times during the night. And if you found that your libido has been dropping a lot over the past few years, that's another major telltale clue that this is what you're suffering from. But all you need to do if you want to fix this hormonal imbalance is increase your liver's enzyme production. Once you do that, you get a little army of warriors inside your liver, and they can go to battle, destroying and banishing all of that excess bad cholesterol, and letting your good cholesterol flow through your bloodstream and repair the damage its evil twin has done. All it takes to do that is adding a few simple foods to your diet, in the right combinations, of course, and on the right schedule, to boost your enzyme production to the levels you need. Dr. Westphal warned that what he's saying might seem weird at first, because lots of these foods are high fat and even high cholesterol. That's why he reminded me that cholesterol problems, even heart disease, don't come from the foods you're eating. The problem comes from inside you. There are really only two parts to permanent, long-lasting heart health. First, you add certain enzyme-producing foods to your diet in the right quantities, at the right time, in the right combinations. And second, these enzymes flush out your excess LDL cholesterol in your liver while allowing your good cholesterol to flow through your body and unclog arteries, repair vessels, and even give the cells in your heart the energy they need to make repairs. That's it, Dr. Westphal said. And yet we have a $29 billion statins industry, a $40 billion health and supplement industry, a $120 billion nutrition industry, and a $530 billion heart disease industry. They're all robbing Americans blind, and they're doing it under the guise of making you healthier. Watch this, though. You really want to cure your heart? Here you go. And with that, the scientist spent the next 30 minutes typing furiously into his computer. When he was done, he printed out about 20 pages, paperclipped them together, and said, "Take this. Follow it exactly how it's written, and then call me in 2 weeks." Well, the first thing I did when I got back to my house that evening was to really look in detail at what Dr. Westphal had given me. The first page was filled with a list of foods that apparently either contained or would help to produce the extra enzymes my liver needed. They were then divided into different groups: high-protein meat products, heavy carb foods, salt-heavy foods, starch-heavy foods. A lot of things I saw there surprised me. The second page was filled with a list of foods that apparently would stifle enzyme production and promote hormone imbalance. Again, the contents here were pretty shocking. There were lots of fruits and veggies I was being told to avoid at all costs. And then, over the next several pages, Dr. Westphal had written out some different combinations of foods that I should be adding to my diet, what time of day to eat them for maximum effectiveness, what portions to have, pretty basic stuff. What I noticed right away is that the plan he'd given me wasn't restrictive at all. It wasn't like I had to eat just one specific food every single day. Instead, I simply needed to match foods from the different groups he'd given me at the right time. There were a ton of examples of foods there, but as long as I followed the basic principles he showed me inside this guide, there were literally millions of combinations I could use. And even better, these weren't just like meal replacements. I could use this extra dietary boost as a snack whenever I wanted. To be completely honest, I was a bit skeptical of all of this at first. I mean, the idea that I could just eat combos of foods, a lot of which I'd heard were no-no foods by the medical and nutritional establishment, and bring my cholesterol down to normal levels, and even flush out my plaque from my body while repairing heart damage, seemed almost too easy, like it was too good to be true. But really, it's not like I had many other options. The medications weren't working, avoiding cholesterol foods weren't working, I couldn't even exercise if I wanted to, because my heart was so weak. So I decided, what the heck? And the next morning, I got started following Dr. Westphal's guide. Well, it really was easy to implement this guide. I mean, all I was doing was adding a few things to my diet and avoiding some of the fruits, veggies, and other health foods I've been eating regularly, which is why I began sleeping through the night without waking up multiple times in a cold sweat. As I started getting out of bed every morning with more energy than the day before, as my breathing became less and less labored, while the tightness I'd been feeling in my chest for months began to completely melt away, I was pretty amazed. This sense of amazement, though, paled in comparison to what happened when 17 days later I got the results from my most recent blood panel. I'll never forget the look on my physician's face as he stared dumbly at the report he had in front of me. "I'm really sorry," he said. "I think there was a mix-up or an error at the lab. This is showing that your total cholesterol level is 192. The last reading we had for you was 320. That has to be a mistake, and we're going to need to run the test again." And so we ran another test, but the results were almost exactly the same. I say almost because this time it showed me having a 190 total cholesterol level. My doctor just couldn't understand what was going on. He ordered that I have an ECG, and he almost looked frustrated when it came back showing that my heart was in near perfect condition from a structural perspective. The guy just couldn't believe what he was seeing, and so he ordered something called a cardiac catheterization, which tested for the pressure in my heart chambers and measured the blood flow through my heart vessels and valves. The results came back, and yet again, they all showed that my heart was in perfect condition. "I don't understand any of this," the physician said. "What have you been doing?" I tried explaining Dr. Westphal's method, but he just wouldn't believe that adding a bunch of unhealthy foods to my diet was responsible for what he was seeing. "I think it's a miracle," he said. "That's the only way to explain this." While the doctor was confused, however, I was ecstatic. In less than 17 days, I'd gone from being at severe risk of a massive heart attack to being considered 100% medically healthy. The sense of relief was overwhelming, as if I'd been pardoned from a death sentence in the 11th hour. To suddenly know that I'd be there for my children and my soon-to-be-born granddaughter, and that I could return to the life I loved, hiking, camping, traveling, all these things I thought I'd never be able to do. Of knowing ultimately that I wasn't going to die from heart disease, the #1 killer in all of America. It was a totally, overwhelmingly incredible feeling. I called Dr. Westphal in tears to tell him what was happening, and while he was happy for me, he didn't sound the least bit surprised. "I told you it would work," he said. "We've known about this for years, not the specific food lists I gave you, but the principles. Because of that, it just made sense that if I gave you the right combinations, portions, and schedule, then your liver enzyme production would be through the roof, and your bad cholesterol would disappear." Well, my next thought, which I immediately shared with the scientist, was how could we start getting this to as many people as possible? At first, Dr. Westphal just said that he was sorry, but we simply couldn't make this information public. He said that there were so many different multi-billion-dollar industries that it could destroy, and that because of this he was simply too scared that they would sue the living daylights out of him or threaten to cut funding of the university or blacklist him from the scientific community. That pissed me off, and I told him exactly how I felt. What he had shown me had saved my life, and I'd forever be grateful to him. But how dare he knowingly keep something from more than 100 million Americans who either already suffered from heart disease or who are at risk to get it one day? "I know you're scared," I said, "but think about how scared these countless others are. The ones who know they're going to die decades sooner than they should. The ones who are still haunted by the terrified screams of their family and loved ones as they dropped to the floor and had a heart attack right in front of them. I've done the research and I've seen the facts. 25% of all deaths in the U.S. each year are from heart disease. And you have the chance to save so very many lives. Could you live with yourself if you didn't take that opportunity?" Well, I guess this last point finally hit home for Dr. Westphal, and he agreed to let me share the guide he's created with the public under a few conditions. The first was that I could only do so online through a secure website. The second was that I couldn't advertise in any mainstream magazines, newspapers, or anywhere else that would attract the attention of Big Pharma or the health and diet conglomerates. I could tell people I know to email their friends about it, or share the web address with people I know personally. I could maybe put small ads on a few websites to reach those people I want to help, but that was it. And the third condition was that as soon as the pharmaceutical companies or the supplement companies or any other big business cartels found out about this, I had to immediately pull this website down. Those terms weren't perfect, but they were better than nothing, so I instantly agreed to them. For the next month, Dr. Westphal and I worked almost around the clock to package the heart-saving information he'd given me into an easy-to-follow guide that anyone could use to restore both their cholesterol levels and their total heart health to the levels of a 24-year-old. We're calling it the Heart Revitalized program, and inside it, you'll get the exact same guide that Dr. Westphal gave me, including a comprehensive list of power foods that support enzyme production in your liver. A lot of these are items you wouldn't expect, and yet they're guaranteed to lower your cholesterol levels by 70 points or more in the first 3 weeks. All of these foods have been organized into basic groups based on their nutritional makeup. So, for example, you'll see a carb group, or a protein group, or a salt group, or a sugar group, etc. We'll also show you a list of foods that are known to destroy your liver health. A lot of these are pretty surprising, and you'll find out how many seemingly healthy fruits and veggies are actually exploding your cholesterol levels, damaging your blood vessels, clogging your arteries, and ravaging your heart. Inside, you'll also see in explicit, step-by-step detail how to combine each of the good food groups when eating them for maximum liver enzyme production. What's really cool about this is that you don't have to eat any one specific food item. You simply combine food groups in the right way, and your liver goes into full-on cleanse mode, which is why we're also including the recommended daily portions of each food combination, which is essential to flushing cholesterol and repairing heart damage while still keeping your body in balance. You'll even be shown when to eat these different foods each day. That's huge because your hormone production levels vary by what time of day it is. And by knowing when to attack that cholesterol production, you can get results even more rapidly. And finally, it's vital for you to realize that the Heart Revitalized program is something you can use for life. You don't have to follow any strict diet rules or regulations. Once your heart health is restored and your cholesterol is banished, you simply keep these foods in your diet on a semi-regular basis. It's like doing maintenance a few times a week, except there's not really any work here, besides eating a fat, juicy steak with a few other sides that you already love. At the time of this presentation, more than 37,000 other Americans just like you have already used the Heart Revitalized program to repair virtually all of their heart, artery, and blood vessel damage while dramatically lowering their cholesterol levels. People like Evan Walsh of Surprise, Arizona, who says, "I'd already had 3 heart attacks when I discovered your program. I didn't even know what to do, and I was at the end of my rope. I mean, I'd tried restricting my diet, I was on medications, it just seemed like I was destined to die. After using the Heart Revitalized program, it's like I've suddenly gotten my life back. It was so easy to follow, and it just made so much sense. And my doctor was absolutely amazed by the transformation he'd seen in my body. They'd done scans, EKGs, you name it, and my heart is considered to be at about 94% functionality. That's pretty remarkable when you consider that 3 months ago, it was only functioning at 41%. And Dr. Kevin Krymar of Little Rock, Arkansas, who says, "As a doctor, I'm always extremely wary about people on the internet who say they can stop diseases from happening or reverse the damage that's already occurred. When my nephew showed me your video, however, I was pretty impressed. What Dr. Westphal told you about really is the most effective way to lower cholesterol levels. The science is completely valid, and the method you share is completely medically substantiated. To be honest, my biggest disappointment when I watched this was that more doctors, physicians, and health experts weren't sharing this. I'd like to discuss partnering with you, because this could save a lot of lives." Now, given the information above, it should be pretty clear to see why the Heart Revitalized program is unlike anything you've ever heard of before. It's completely natural, repairs the damage you've already done to your heart over the years. Even if you've already had a heart attack or have heart disease, it flushes cholesterol and plaque buildup from your body in a few short weeks. And does it all without requiring you to follow a restrictive diet or constantly worrying about whether or not the foods you're eating are good for you or bad for you. Of course, that's not to say there aren't other options out there. There are a lot of medications out there for heart health, and some of them do lower cholesterol in the short run. But as you've already seen, these pharma drugs come with an incredible laundry list of side effects, from smaller concerns like rashes to erectile dysfunction to serious health complications like liver damage and diabetes. Because they damage your liver, you'll constantly have to be on more and more of those medications, or even stronger dosages. And if God forbid you get diabetes, well, there are at least 3 more medications you'll be forced to be popping in. In other words, these heart drugs take you down a slippery and deadly slope, one that you'd rather avoid if at all possible. Plus, that's not even to mention the costs of all these drugs. Even with great insurance, that copay can rapidly add up to $150 per month or more, $1,800 or more per year, $18,000 out of your pocket in the coming decade, if you even make it that long. You can continue watching your good cholesterol and bad cholesterol levels, not knowing exactly which foods have the good kind and which ones have the bad kind, making eating at restaurants extremely difficult. But like you've already seen here, foods only contribute to about 25% of the cholesterol levels in our bodies, which means following them is a lot like throwing a bucket of water into a raging wildfire. There's an option of working out regularly, doing 30 minutes of cardio per day, for example. Exercising can lead to better blood circulation, but again, it does nothing to address the cholesterol buildup in your body, which means you remain just as at risk of heart disease or a deadly heart attack. Oh, and then there's the fact that the overall cost of being hospitalized for a heart attack has a range of up to $100,000. If you're like many Americans, you don't have that type of money lying around. That's money you could be using to put your children or grandchildren through college, or take the vacation of a lifetime, or money that could help you to be totally financially secure during your retirement. Given all of this, it should be clear to how the Heart Revitalized program, which teaches you basic and all-natural heart healing principles that have already been known by the scientific community for over 20 years, and that has now been used successfully by more than 37,000 deserving Americans just like you, is something that's absolutely essential to your long-lasting health. That's why initially, Dr. Westphal and I planned to sell this guide for $297. That might sound steep, but when you think about it, that's already probably about 10% of what you'd pay on prescription medication, doctor's visits, and your health insurance premiums combined in 1 year. It's significantly less than the $100,000 you'll pay if you're struck with a heart attack. And once you have access to the food lists, the portion recommendations, and the Quick Start Daily Guide, you are guaranteed to reduce the risk of heart-related diseases and heart attacks by as much as 95% within the first 17 days. You'll see your heart strength has been restored, damage reversed, and your cholesterol lowered back to optimal health levels. There's no miracle pill that will promise that. Given all of this, $297 sounds like we're practically giving this away. But it isn't about money. All statistics show that after my first heart attack, I should already be dead. But because I followed the steps inside this guide myself, I was able to renew my lease on life. And that's ultimately what this is all about. Allowing you to live in perfect health for decades to come. Which is why there's no chance I could even consider charging you $297 for this, or even $197, or even $97. Instead, when you act today by making a life-changing decision to reverse your chances of heart disease and heart attacks for good, extending your life expectancy by decades, you'll simply be asked to cover our administrative, website, and distribution costs, and make a small investment of $39.95, which is less than a month of co-pays for medications or a doctor's appointment. To get started, simply click the Add to Cart button that you see right below this video screen now. Once you do that, you'll be taken to the secure checkout page that Dr. Westphal and I have created. Then, just put in your information, and you'll get instant access to the guides and lists, everything. And you'll be able to view them right on your computer, tablet, or smartphone, or download them to your computer, or print out as many copies as you'd like, so you can always have this program with you, no matter where you are. You also have the option of downloading them, printing out however many copies you want, and taking them wherever you go. You won't have to wait days or weeks for the program to arrive at your door. Plus, your investment will be covered by a 100% 60-day money-back guarantee. So all you have to do is try the Heart Revitalized program today. Click the Add to Cart button below. Get all the lists, plans, and schedules you need to succeed, and you'll have a full 60 days to try this for yourself. See for yourself how dramatically your cholesterol levels drop, or just how low your blood pressure becomes, or just how strong your heart is. Join the 37,338 Americans before you who were once struggling with heart disease, strokes, heart attacks, and who saw their heart rate become as healthy as a 25-year-old's in just a few short weeks. And if at any point over the next 60 days you decide you're not happy with your purchase, or if your LDL levels only drop by 70 milligrams per deciliter instead of the 120 milligrams per deciliter you were hoping for, or even if you have no reason at all you have to do is email me at the address provided to you in the private members area, and I will immediately refund your entire investment within 24 to 48 hours, with no questions asked. Plus, you can even keep the program, just as a thank you for at least taking action today. In other words, there is absolutely zero risk involved in your decision today. But if you're ready to take back your heart health and your life, you must click the Add to Cart button you see below this video right now. And as I've already mentioned, I've made a promise to Dr. Westphal that the moment big business finds out about this website, it gets taken down forever. I hate that this is even an option, but you can believe that the pharma conglomerates and the diet gurus and the billion-dollar supplement manufacturers are going to be pissed when they find out about this. They'll threaten to sue, and they'll go to any lengths necessary to slander Dr. Westphal and threaten the safety of his family. That's simply not something I can allow to happen, which means I must honor his wishes to delete this site at the first threat of danger. This presentation is about to end, and there's only a few seconds left to make this 100% risk-free decision. This is something that will ultimately restore your heart health, bring back decades to your life, and let you live in permanent peace of mind. Ultimately, the choice is yours. You could let this video end and then click away without trying the Heart Revitalized program. That's entirely your right to do so. But remember, if that's your decision, what will change? How will you reclaim your health or guarantee you either never have a heart attack or heart disease? Or that if you've already had a devastating heart attack or heart disease, that you will reverse all of the damage they've already caused? You already know the medications will kill you in the long run, that diet plans are utterly incomplete, that exercise has nothing to do with your cholesterol levels. Really, that's not an option at all, and you already know it. So click the Add to Cart button below and try the Heart Revitalized program for yourself right now for the next 60 days, absolutely risk-free. Look at the food lists, eating thousands of delicious meals, things you haven't enjoyed regularly for years. Flush the excess levels of deadly cholesterol out of your body for good. Flush out your vessels and arteries, repair the damage to your heart, and take back your life. This is Andrew Dillard. I'll really hope to hear your success story soon after you've tried the program. Still here? I understand. The information I just revealed to you is shocking, and you may still have some questions that you want answered. Obviously, I can't make this decision for you, but I can take the time to answer some common questions people ask me about the Heart Revitalized program. 1. How is it possible that the Heart Revitalized program can reverse the risks of heart attacks and other related heart diseases? Well, like I mentioned during the presentation you just saw, the Heart Revitalized program shows you how to naturally increase the enzymes in your liver that are responsible for flushing out cholesterol. When that happens, the good cholesterol in your system can circulate through your body, repair damaged cells and arteries, unclog your blood vessels,
and power your heart cells so that they can rapidly regenerate. 2. Who will this program work for? This program works for anyone, at any age, to decrease their risks of heart attacks, strokes, and other types of heart-related diseases. There are no dangerous medications. You'll never need a prescription. And you don't have to severely limit what you eat. This is about taking the foods that you love, increase their health benefits, and eliminating the foods that you'd rather not eat anyway. 3. Why haven't I heard of this before? Big Pharma doesn't want this information out in the public. Heart attacks can become one of the leading causes of deaths in America by 2020. That's a lot of money in medical bills, medications, visits with specialists. That's a lot of money going into a billion-dollar industry. For this reason, billions of dollars are spent to ensure that private researchers and professors of academic medications focus only on the medications that manage heart disease, not one that cure it. 4. What's included in the program exactly? Inside the Heart Revitalized program, you'll get the enzyme-producing food lists, a comprehensive guide for how to combine these foods to increase enzyme production, daily portion recommendations, and even a list of surprising foods that suppress the liver and keep your hormones unbalanced. You'll also be shown exactly how to combine all this information to simply and easily flush out the excess cholesterol in your body in about 17 days. 5. What happens after I click the Add to Cart button? Once you've clicked the button, you'll be taken to a secure checkout page. Once you've entered your basic information, you get instant access to this program. All of the materials mentioned above can be viewed on your computer, smartphone, or tablet. You'll also have the option of downloading everything and printing out as many copies as you'd like. 6. So what's the guarantee again? Because this program has literally saved my life and the lives of thousands of other Americans, I want to make it as easy as possible for everyone to get their hands on it. That means all the risk in trying the product must be removed, and the decision should be easy. So once you've clicked the Add to Cart button below, you get a full 60 days to try out the program for yourself. If at any point you decide that you are not satisfied for any reason, simply send an email to the address listed in the members area, and I'll quickly refund the entire $39.95 to you within 24 to 48 hours with no questions asked. 7. How long will this program be available? I can't give you an exact number of days, hopefully a long time, but like I said, the second the health, wellness, or pharma cartels find out about this, we have to take it down. That could be just a matter of days. 8. Okay, I'm ready to change my life. What's the next step? To change your life today, all you have to do is simply click the Add to Cart button below. Once you do that, you'll get the entire program instantly, and you'll be protected by a 100% 60-day guarantee. There's no risk here at all, so go ahead and make that decision now, and I'll see you on the inside.